Hello, my friends. I've almost had my rest and I'm ready to come back to you. Today we'll start with the fact that Russians continue to shell Ukrainian territory. Late last night, new strikes were recorded in Kharkiv, which caused power outages in some parts of the city. Meanwhile, Trump says that World War III will not happen. In his speech at the peace summit in Sharm el Sheikh, Donald Trump stated that today's agreement prevented the start of World War III. I've often read that World War III would begin in the Middle East. That's not going to happen. People used to think that way, but it won't. Hopefully, there won't be a World War III, and definitely not in the Middle East. If we are smart, there will never be a World War III. At the same time, Trump said that if the US hadn't struck Iran, this conflict wouldn't have been resolved.
They took a big hit. And frankly, if we didn't hit them with the nuclear, I don't think you would have been able to have this incredible, this deal, this once in a lifetime deal. Nobody's ever seen anything like what's happening today.
Let's hope he learned his lesson and realized that strikes against Russia are also necessary to resolve this conflict. Friends, make sure to share your thoughts about this in the comments. And now let's move on to the situation along the front line, starting with the Dobropillia direction. Here, the Ukrainian forces managed to push the Russians back by 1 kilometer 200 meters near the village of Nove Shakhove. They also drove the Russians back by 1.5 kilometers from Rubizhne and by 1 kilometer 400 meters from the village of Hruske. As we can see, there are real results from the Ukrainian counterattacks. At the same time, the Russians managed to advance closer to Sosnivka by 1 kilometer 300 meters, and today footage appeared showing yesterday's assault in the Dobropillia direction. The Russians in the Dobropillia-Myrnograd sector attempted a massive mechanized assault. Russian columns moved from the area of Novopoltavka toward Shakhove, struck and stopped in the forest belts to the east. From Novoekonomichne toward Boykivka, destroyed or halted near Fedorivka with the infantry scattering. From Novoekonomichne toward Balahan, also hit. Thus, Ukrainian forces are successfully repelling attacks here and are even achieving progress in their counteroffensives. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians are assaulting Rodinske and Novoekonomichne, advancing near Myrolubivka and storming Promень. Meanwhile, Russian sources are already claiming to have captured the village of Moskovske and to be advancing toward the outskirts of Myrnograd. For now, we are waiting for official confirmation. In addition, the Russians continue the assaults near the outskirts of Pokrovsk, and the situation there remains very difficult. But so far, no changes have been recorded along the front line in this area. There are also changes today in the Novopavlivka direction. The Ukrainian forces pushed the Russians back by 1 kilometer 900 meters from Novopavlivka and by another 2 kilometers across the fields further from Filia. At the same time, the Russians managed to advance 4 kilometers 800 meters closer to Oleksandrokhrad. They have practically approached the village closely and are now assaulting it. So, on one hand, the situation has somewhat improved, but on the other hand, it has significantly worsened. Meanwhile, fighting continues near Dachne and Ivanivka. In the direction of the village of Pokrovske in the Dnipropetrovsk region, the Ukrainian forces managed to push the Russians back by 1 kilometer 700 meters from Oleksiyivka. This shows that counterattacks are also continuing here. Similarly, the Russians are assaulting Sosnivka, Verbove, and Novogorivka. The situation remains difficult, but as we can see, the Ukrainian forces are achieving some successes in this area. In the Huliaipole direction, the Russians didn't launch any new assaults, and for now, the front line has remained unchanged over the past 24 hours. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, it has been confirmed that the Ukrainian forces advanced near Maly Shcherbaky by 3 kilometers 700 meters, and they have practically approached Stepove closely. Thus, Maly Shcherbaky is now completely under the control of the Ukrainian forces. At the same time, the Russians continue to assault Stepnohirsk and Prymorske, so the situation there remains difficult. However, it's clear that Ukrainian forces have also begun counterattacks in this area and are achieving some success. In the Kherson direction, the Russians haven't launched any new assaults, while shelling of the right bank continues in the usual pattern. Now let's move to the Kostiantynivka direction. There are some changes today. Uh, to begin with, the Russians have advanced closer to Plashiyivka by 1 kilometer 100 meters. Near the village of Klebanbyk, a Russian advancement of about 1 kilometer 400 meters has also been confirmed, although the complete capture of Klebanbyk hasn't yet been verified. At the same time, Ukrainian forces managed to push the Russians back near Stepanivka across the fields. The advance amounted to 2 kilometers 700 meters. The Russians also continue to storm Stupochki, Oleksandrokhrad, and Pleshiyivka, and are attempting to break through near Rusin Yar and Poltavka. Shalon also continues, thus the front here is slowly shifting. In the Siversk direction, new problems have emerged. The Russians managed to advance toward Siversk by 2 kilometers 700 meters. At the same time, assaults on Yampil continue, and Russian forces are pushing through in the areas of Serebryanka and Vyimka. In the Lyman direction, it has been confirmed that the Russians have fully captured Zarychne, advancing 3 kilometers 200 meters. In addition, they managed to move 5 kilometers 500 meters closer to Lyman. Thus, the front here has again significantly collapsed, and the situation continues to deteriorate rapidly. And the Russians are getting closer and closer to their main objective, and they're also assaulting Drobosheva and breaking through near Chandrigolova. In the Borova direction, the Russians claimed yesterday that they had captured the village of Borivska Andriivka. However, on the map shows the opposite. Ukrainian forces managed to push the Russians back by 2 kilometers 600 meters, and reports also indicate clashes near the village of Zeleny High. For now, we are waiting to see how the situation will develop in this direction, although activity here is not the highest. In the Kupiansk direction, the front has significantly collapsed. The Russians advanced toward the village of Myrne by 2 kilometers. Within the town itself, they also managed to expand their controlled territory. This is no longer a gray zone. They have secured their positions. The Russians are also storming Petropavlivka and breaking through near Pishane. As we can see, the situation here has also started to deteriorate. Despite heavy losses, the Russians continue to push their defense line forward through sheer numbers of attacks. In the Dvorichne direction, assaults on Doroshivka and Kutkivka are ongoing, but so far there have been no changes along the front line. In the Velykyi Brulok direction, the Russians are assaulting Novovasilievka, Kolodezhne, and Bologivka. So far, the Ukrainian forces have been successful repelling all attacks, and no changes have been recorded over the past 24 hours. In the Kharkiv direction, the Russians continue shelling, but no new attacks along the front line have been reported. Fighting is only taking place near Vovchansk, but as before, the front line there remains unchanged. In the Sumy direction, activity is again minimal. The Russians are trying to break through near Andriivka and Yablonivka, but they have achieved no success, and the front line here remains unchanged. And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.